about forest plan revision, this would be an excellent time to take a hike or something outside. No, we really want you to be here tonight. This is good. We are so happy to have this many folks show up for a forest plan revision meeting. On a beautiful summer evening. It's a full moon, I might remind people. Tonight being a full moon, guess what happens when the full moon's out? I hope we don't have any howling in here tonight. We'll save that till after 10 o'clock. How's that? Okay, I'm Maggie Pittman. I work at the Missoula Ranger District. I'm the district ranger there. And I have a counterpart here somewhere. Dan Ritter, where are you?
Maggie.
What? There you are. Dan Ritter is the district ranger at Stevensville. So Dan and I are going to be hosting the meeting tonight. So we'll let folks still filter in, but let me get started with what it is that we're here for tonight. Whew. We've had a couple of good weeks kind of gearing up for this, and I think the Missoula community can stand proud to know that you all have such interest in the public lands around Missoula, Montana. We got a pretty great place to live, and it's great that we have so many people interested in the management of the public lands here. So I want to tell you a little bit about the timing of the forest plan revision process as it relates to all your specific interest in the Lolo Peak. This proposal that's kind of the elephant in the room, I've heard that term a lot lately. People have said, "Now Maggie, make sure you talk about the elephant in the room." I thought, what the heck is that? There's no elephant in this room, but apparently it is the former proposal we had submitted to the bidder in the Lolo National Forests on the ski area for Lolo Peak. So there we have it. That's the elephant in the room, and we will talk about the allocation for that particular area tonight. And I appreciate the fact that folks have been so tolerant of the discussion that we've had over the last few weeks about talking specifics and trying to keep it broad. That particular topic is a tough one for folks to swallow. But the timing of our forest plan revision process and that particular issue makes it difficult for folks. Some of you want some certainty now to that question. What's going to happen on this proposal for a ski area at Lolo Peak? And that is frustrating for you because we can't offer you that certainty right now. What we've got that I know I can be certain of is a couple of things. Last fall, the forests had a proposal submitted for a preliminary proposal from the bidder resort to develop an alpine and a Nordic ski area in the area around Lolo Peak. In February this year, Lolo Forest Supervisor and the Bitterroot Forest Supervisor, Debbie Austin and Dave Bull, denied that request because it didn't comply with the standards in our current Lolo Forest Plan or the Bitterroot Forest Plan. Specifically, it did not protect the character of the Carlton Ridge Research Natural Area. It did not comply with the standards to retain a semi-primitive recreational experience. And it did not meet the standards for protecting the inventory roadless area. In the denial letter to the proponents, the forest supervisors informed them that they could choose to alter their proposal to bring it into compliance with the existing forest plans. They also suggested that the ski area proponents work through the forest plan revision process to help determine the appropriate allocations for the revised forest plan, which is why we're here tonight. The Bitterroot Resort representatives have met with Missoula and Stevensville Ranger districts over the last couple of months, and we've discussed the potential for a Nordic ski area on national forest land. Primarily, that proposal rests on the Bitterroot National Forest. To date, we haven't received a Nordic area a proposal yet. So as it stands now, we have no proposals in hand. Management area allocations, please forgive me for reading, I just want to make sure I get these things out clearly. Management area allocations determine the suitability of certain activities and management practices across the landscape. For example, what you have in front of you tonight are some management area themes. A management area of 2.2 in our preferred option, which we'll get into more detail on here later, would include backcountry areas that are generally roadless and natural appearing. Some of the lands that have been allocated as roadless in the current forest plan are included in our preferred option and NA 2.2 or backcountry That's on the Lolo. Another example is MA 6.1, or high-use recreation complexes. These areas would include places like the Patty Canyon and Blue Mountain recreation areas. They could also be areas that have a significant trail system, a fall course, a lake with a highly developed campground, things like that. Those are things that I know for certain. Those are things that you can rest assured with some certainty that are facts. The only other thing I know for certain is that some of this is not constant. When we are finished revising the forest plans, we will have our contract with you as to how we'll manage these lands for the next 15 years. But those allocations can change if there is support to do so. It can happen through an amendment to the forest plan. It can happen through congressional action. Those things can only happen with solid site-specific support and information. And it can take a lot of time and effort. This is why it's so critical that we revise our forest plans so that they reflect the best vision we can develop for the next 15 years. We want to get it right with our first shot so that we don't have to do a lot of amending and changing later on. That's why we need your help tonight. So, when you came into the door tonight, you received a couple of pieces of paper. You received a management area briefing that talks about the different MAs that are in the circled area on your map that we'll talk about this evening over your tables. You also received a one-page flyer that we felt it was important to allow you to see the various sides of the ski area proposal debate. One side of that one-pager is a map that the Friends of Lolo Peak put together. The other side is the management area allocation that the Bitterroot Resort folks came up with. There are representatives from each of these groups at your table. They can provide you some more specific detail on what their proposal or what their feeling for allocation and suitability is about. So tonight for our discussions at the tables, we're going to focus on management, allocation, and land suitability. Those words are probably deeply embedded in your mind after all the talk you've been hearing the last couple weeks. Please be thinking about how you want this land to look over the next 15 years. We need you to think desired conditions. Think about what the land is suitable for. Think big picture. Think vision. Those kinds of things. And finally, when we're done tonight, we're going to gather up all the information that we've gotten from you on these forms, and we're going to give those to the planning team. They're going to work with the various leadership teams on the Lolo and the Bitterroot forests, and we'll determine over the next month or two what we can live with as the Forest Service, and we will incorporate those changes, if we can, into the preferred option that goes out to the general public in October-ish. Am I right, Lee? Okay. When it goes out to the general public, you have 90 days. You have 90 days, sorry, can you hear me? I can eat this thing. 90 days the general public will have to comment on that draft forest plan. And then Lee, next summer is when we intend to have the final out, okay? So you all get the first crack at helping us to develop the preferred alternative, the preferred option that will have a general public review come fall. Okay, so I wanted to make sure I introduced a couple of key members of our planning team tonight that are on hand. The way we're structured is that we have, there's a Forest Service representative at each of the tables who will serve as facilitator, and Dan Ritter's going to go into that a little bit. Each of the Forest Service folks, please raise your hand so that folks at your tables know who you are. All right, you guys are all at one table. This is not a party. Sorry. We do kind of like each other, but you guys need to disperse. If there's tables that don't have a facilitator, please raise your hands. Forest Service, okay. Wow. All right, come on down, guys. Also, the planning team. We've got some amazing folks that work on the planning team, and the Lolo's involved in a 3-forest zone, which is the Bitterroot, the Lolo, and the Flathead National Forest. This team of folks are brilliant at pulling this stuff together, and they've worked a lot together over the last, year and a half, Lee? Lee Kramer is the lead for that team. Chuck Sperry is the assistant team leader, right back here, and then we've got Marsha Moore, we've got Ed Weber, where are you at? All you other planning team folks, you could raise your hand. Did I miss anybody? Pat Sweeney, where are you? There you are, okay. Anybody else from the planning team? Okay, these folks are going to be floating around tonight for kind of expertise on the planning process and the management areas if you need that help. Okay, have I missed anybody? Sharon Sweeney, the Public Affairs Officer for the forest, she'll also be floating around and helping. Anything else? Okay. Dan, am I ready for you?
I think so.
All right.
Okay, how many people really have no idea what's going on in this room and you're only here because it's air conditioned? Let's see, raise your hands. Be honest now. I also want to thank everybody for coming. I know there's a lot going on in the summer, and we certainly appreciate all of you from the Missoula area, and I see a few faces from the Bitterroot Valley, and we appreciate you coming and sharing your thoughts with us tonight. So I'm going to go through how we're going to manage the evening. And there's a couple of options depending on how much time you have to spend with us tonight, but the bottom line is we want to hear what you have to say in an organized fashion, given the limited amount of time we have tonight. So we're going to talk about our expectations from the Forest Service, a little bit about the objectives, and then the process, how we're going to get from now until 9:30, 10 o'clock. So there's a big diversity of opinion in the room. A lot of people have strong opinions on the issues. And so we're going to ask that you follow the ground rules as you're working through in your small groups. And those are posted around the room. And they're pretty simple. It's basically respect each other's opinions and give each person a chance to speak one at a time. And it's going to be very critical in this room that we keep the conversations to one at a time, because if side conversations start to build, there will be a roar in this room and no one will be able to hear themselves think. So those are our expectations in terms of dealing with each other in terms of respect and listening to each other. So the objective tonight is to look at, discuss, and seek agreements for the management allocations and the suitable uses for those areas around Lolo Peak. And you have a map at the table that focuses a bullseye, if you will, on the area that we're dealing with tonight. And we'll talk a little bit about those maps. But the idea is we're going to be talking about allocations and suitable uses in the Lolo Peak area. So here's how the process is set up. For those of you that have some time and can spend sitting around the tables tonight, we're going to be conducting a similar kind of a discussion as we have with the other community meetings that we've held here in Missoula and in the Bitterroot Valley over the last year or so. And we'll have a facilitator at each table, and we'll talk about this allocation and suitable use issue until about 9 o'clock. Is that right? And then those facilitators will report out to the large group. So that's one option. If you're short of time, and you've got either your lawn is burning up, or it needs to be mowed, or the dog needs to be walked, the other option is Lee Kramer will take 2 of you or 200 of you to another room where you can just simply give written comments to the forest supervisor based on some background that Lee will provide. So if you don't have a lot of time, you want to make sure that the forest supervisors hear your concerns in the area. You can go with Lee when we break up, and he will work through a process where you can submit written comments. The rest of you that want to continue to work with us tonight around the tables, your comments will also be heard. The facilitators will capture those comments and your views at the table. So those of you that stay at the table, we want to make sure that your tables have a diverse viewpoint. So if you look around the table and you know everybody, and you think you all share the same opinion, we're going to ask you to get up and mix yourselves up so that we have that diverse opinion and we have an interesting and productive conversation on all sides of the issue. So the facilitator will be there to help us focus the discussion on suitability and allocation issues. They will also take notes on those areas of agreement or disagreement, if that's the case. And then at 9 o'clock, we'll report out so each group can hear what the other groups have talked about. And then it'll be over. So, what have I missed?
I'd still like to know which tables don't have
Any tables that don't have facilitators yet? One way over here in the corner,
One back over
and one here. Two down there. Do we have 3 facilitators left?
What I'm thinking is we have several scattered tables, so why don't we put those folks
Okay.
together? And then we
So I think we can consolidate when we split up. Let me see a show of hands for people that don't have a lot of time. Why don't you go with Lee, kind of cut to the short version of this session tonight. So not a whole lot. So the tables will probably remain intact.
Probably.
As
Well, there'll
we
be a
have.
few holes here and there, so.
The other thing that we'll do is the facilitators will pass around a sheet if you're interested in being acknowledged that you were at this meeting, that you had these discussions. Please sign it. You don't have to, but it gives us a record of who was here. And if you want to comment later on in the process, it's probably a good idea that your name was listed on the attendees of this meeting. So I guess I would say, unless there's a question on the process, like you don't know what to do next, I'm going to split up the group here. Process question.
Can we type up our comments at home and give them to you tomorrow after we've heard everything that's gone on today? Is that allowed
Sure.
as well?
Yep. We'll do that. You can do that also. So if you wanted to type up your comments, if you didn't hear that, type up your comments later and give them to us. That would be fine. Okay, so everybody that's short of time and wants to go with Lee Kramer to record their comments to the 4 supervisors, there he goes. So while that commotion's going on here for a second, stand by.
Some of the stuff we got and how we can use the stuff that you have. The management area allocation sheet that was handed out, there's a short version which gives you in a few words what each management allocation means. And then if we have any questions about the management areas and specifically what they mean, we got a longer version here that we refer to. So if you say, 3.3, we'll have more information about what it means if something is in 3.3. Then the other piece of paper that you have, John has this one. Oops, yeah, this one. This one is the opponents of Lolo Peak and the proponents of Lolo Peak Ski Area were both asked what management area allocation would you like to see in the area. And they submitted that to us and we copied that. And on this page is what the Friends of Lolo Peak feel should be the management area allocation in the area. And on this page, side of the page, is what the Bitterroot Resort submitted to us, saying this is what they think the management area allocation should be. So there's kind of a reference that way. And then what we've got is we've got a map here that we'll have to rotate around and kind of fold it in so it would be easier to deal with. It shows the area that we're going to be talking about, and then it gives you a blow up, and then it gives you the management areas here so we can key those to the numbers. What we're talking about tonight is we're talking about management area allocation. And we're talking about basically the capability of the area. So while somebody might say, well, I want to just key on Lolo Peak, for example, as a ski area, 6.1, for example, would be the management area that would allow that level of development. But 6.1 has a lot greater implications than just a ski area. So we're not just talking about a ski area, we're talking about the capability of the area and the management area allocation. So that's how we'll address it. And then the other thing that we do, then what we're going to do is I have a little report out sheet here, and what we'll do then is we'll go through, for the area in question, we'll go through each one of the management areas that are in the preferred option, starting with 1.2 because it's the lowest number. And what we'd like to do is have some discussion within the group, giving everybody an opportunity to voice your opinion, and say, what do you think of the 1.2 that is in this area? Do you think that it's okay like it is? Do you think that it should be smaller? Do you think that it should be larger? And we'll get some discussion here in the group, and then I'll document what I hear the group saying, and then when it seems like we've pretty well exhausted that discussion, I'll read back to everybody what I've been hearing, and if that sounds okay to everybody and you feel like those are you represented, then we'll go to the next management area. Sound like a plan? Okay. So we'll start with management area 1.2, and 1.2 is recommended wilderness, and And if you had any questions about that, you could key over to this sheet, 1.2, and it says, these are the lands that the Forest Service would recommend to Congress that would be included in the wilderness system. But it would be a recommendation, but it wouldn't be wilderness until Congress acted on it. So what we're talking about is just what would be recommended. Okay? So the area that we're talking about, the 1.2, is right here in our area of consideration, and it would be in addition to the Selway Bitterroot. It's right adjacent to the existing 1.1, which is wilderness, the Selway Bitterroot wilderness right here. And so it's right in here. It's right there for reference. That's Lolo Peak proper. And then here's Highway 12, right here. Here's Highway 93 down the Bitterroot, and then Lolo is right here. So that's what we're kind of framed in within here.
Well, I'm opposed to any new additions to the wilderness. I'm in kind of a unique position here because I live less than 3 miles from the border where they're proposing the wilderness. In fact, everybody that enters Lolo Peak Trail from Mill Creek is doing so passing through my property to do it. With my permission, I let people park in the park. But in the event of a fire or something, I like to have the Forest Service have a little bit more strength in fighting fires than let me get within 2 or 3 miles of my house before they're even able to start dealing with it.
But you still can do fire suppression in 1.2. Fire suppression is not disallowed, and we don't have what we call fire plan, fire management. There's not a burn. There's not what they used to call a lead burn policy. You can suppress wildfire in 1.2. That's allowed in this management area allocation. So FYI.
Well, I'm still opposed because it precludes any motorized or mechanized use or any proper maintenance of the trail system.
Excuse me. You said it's this little. What's this? 1.2.
This is 1.2. This is the 1.2 here, but it doesn't. The area we're talking about doesn't include this. The circle kind of cuts right around like that.
We're just talking about this.
Yeah. Well, this is the area that we're talking about right here.
Okay. Is this Lolo Peak Cirque?
It's over on the west side of Lolo Peak proper. It's not the circle. This way from the back side. Lolo Peak and that one would be right there.
So are we going to be, should we just go around and note,
I'll be listening and we'll have some discussion.
and then we'll write it down? Okay.
Yeah. Okay, Larry's thinking that prefers more motorized use, is going to need more wilderness.
And it accomplishes nothing that can't be accomplished in general forest management.
I would disagree with the expected. This is kind of an opponent of the map is the way it is, and I think Friends of Lolo is most worried that we're going to keep coming up again and again and again to this issue unless this area reaches some sort of protection in perpetuity. So that's the idea of instead of having it back on its shape, go to 1.2. No, but that's what I'm saying is that I would expand them and have it so that it goes down this whole flank of Lolo Peak. So it's right in here.
Okay.
Yep, and just so that, if this is such an important area ecologically and to the public and everything else, that this should be precluded. That's just
I'll make my comment. This area is on the north side of 3.5 million acres of wilderness, the biggest area in the U.S. We need more wilderness protection than the whole land. And I've been going up here for 40 years.
except it's not the biggest.
It's not going to make any difference. The only reason you're recommending wilderness is to recruit skiers. Well, that isn't the issue, according to this.
Oh, well, of course it's an issue. That's why people were asked to propose, that's why I've been working on that.
Are we talking about the skiers?
But the allocation,
This would preclude their proposal.
Hillary would like to see the 1.2 go farther, and under the 1.2, the ski area would not be allowed to be made.
The only reason for her making a recommendation is against the ski.
Well,
Not
let's
exactly.
talk about.
I think it makes more map sense, and I think it makes to have Lantern Ridge included, and I think it makes more ecological sense as a general. And this area would have been included way back when if it hadn't been to keep the option open.
Well, the reason it wasn't included is because you
Yeah.
got a lake.
But now the option is again been shot down by the company, and nobody wants it. Some people want it.
I was
Some
on,
people.
I went through these debates in 1988. We had lots of these meetings,
Yep.
and 62% of the voters in Missoula voted for the skier, having a
So
skier.
how did that happen?
That was a vote, and we had debates. Whereas now, it's sort of a set-up job, you know, to get certain people. Like the Friends of Lolo Peak resurrected, they lost once. And now they're trying to bring it up again.
Let's focus on the allocation. That's what we're talking about.
Well, are we talking about this or
Well,
the
this is
little?
our proposed.
We're
And so I'm
talking
just
about
saying,
we're talking about this one, Bob.
No, we're talking about the far side.
We're talking about the Forest Service. Now we're talking about this 1.2. Do you think that this is an appropriate allocation? Should it be larger or smaller?
I'm going by what the Forest Service is proposing. I think it seems significant. But we need another. We've got 3.5 million acres of wilderness. Why do we need more except to lock it up? It's another thing, you couldn't have cross-country skiing.
You could have maybe
You have to have groomed trail. For real cross-country, you have to have groomed trail. Telemarketing.
you'd have to have an area that's already being
This area is covered with woods.
in 1.2 you could cross-country ski, but you couldn't. In 1.2 you couldn't. It wouldn't be developed cross-country ski.
You can't cross-country ski in 10-foot falls.
That's why you should climb for it.
What do you think, John?
You just gotta climb for it.
Well, I'm opposed to any more wilderness in the area. I think that this is a unique opportunity. The exposure, the terrain is conducive to a ski area. That's why it's been considered for so many years, and the additional funding is needed to manage. Well, look at it this way. Simply put, as the numbers go down, so do the dollars in association with the management areas. So you go to 1.2, you get 1.2% of the budget to deal with the situation. Now, that's not direct numbers, but that's the smaller the number, the less money you get to manage it. This area's already been eroded. It's already been developed.
Yeah, this area hasn't been eroded.
Well, some of these areas down here have.
Yeah, the 2.2 as it shows here is unroaded at present.
So to enlarge that,
but it is
that would be-
roaded over in here in the 5.1 and the 4.1.
And
Carlton Lake.
Perfect.
It's right
There's
here.
a road that goes to
There's a road
Yeah,
all the way
there's
to
a
Carlton
deep road that goes to Carlton Lake, right?
so it's not truly wilderness in this at this point. It's
Well,
it's
it
not
is.
truly
The
wilderness.
area
To
that's
designate it as such would be a mistake in my mind. I think that we don't need any wilderness area. And I think it's a very good area for skiing. It's conducive to that type of development. And I would like to see the dollars associated with the management areas. So the bigger the number, the more dollars there will be to
Actually,
manage
the fire,
erosion problems.
if you read the fire
Existing
plan, they originally
roadways
said,
that
well, you can
are-
have skiing.
Now,
Now, the supervisor wanted to kill this, so you know, it's ridiculous.
I must admit that I'm kind of at a loss for
Well, just like you should
researching the problem. I was notified by the Sierra Club that there was a meeting tonight, and I come representing wilderness, so I'm a wilderness advocate. I'd like to see more wilderness in Sierra
So
Club.
really, yeah, I don't know if it will preach good.
That's only my opinion, and I don't have a lot of documentation or background to
North
back it
Slope
up.
is,
So we're interested in your opinion. That's what we're.
Okay, well, I know it's been used as a wilderness for hiking and
sure you
other
touch the
wilderness
millions,
uses, and I'd like to
it's
see
all
that.
been logged.
I'm opposed to any extension of the proposed wilderness, especially in this area. And I live right there, and I would say half the trail with me by myself, including maintenance and use, and proposing wilderness would essentially lock me out of an area I use daily.
You guys are related. You guys are related.
Yeah, property. When it goes to proposed wilderness, I won't be able to mountain bike up there, and that's what I do most of the time.
So where do you mountain bike? I'm a mountain biker too, I'm just curious. Oh, and how it drops down.
Yeah. There's no trails in this 1.2 right here.
Well, and the
But there
Lantern
is over
Ridge
in
Trail
the
runs right
2.2.
before. Where you're proposed right now, the Lantern Ridge Trail is on the border. Where they're proposing the extension would include Lantern Ridge all the way over and would close.
I don't think we're opening it that if it would help, I don't think we're opposed to 2.2 that country. Like that would allow the mountain bike because I didn't know.
I would say over 80% of the use on the Lantern Ridge Trail is people I know directly using it.
Yeah, but I've done the downhill there, going up the road, and then done the downhill on my mountain bike. And, I mean, it's a good point.
Well, that's coming down. That wouldn't be affected because that's in this 2.2 area over here, off the Mormon Peak Trailhead down in.
Oh, and so what are you talking about? I'm confused.
The Lantern Ridge Trail runs from right here, and it comes through this piece of Plum Creek.
Yep.
And it comes switchbacks up until here. It runs up this ridge, switchbacks again up to here, and runs all the way to the peak.
Yep.
Which is this.
Lantern Ridge has
So right now it's all in 1.2.
Right. It basically runs right here up to the peak.
Oh, is this a trail still?
Yeah, the trail.
Or does it
right here.
zigzag? Okay.
The trail's right there.
So where you're worried about is here?
Where you're proposed recommended wilderness is, would close this trail over. I mean, I ride up above to the surf right here.
Yeah. I think when we talked about this, we were open to the fact that 2.2 might be a fine designation. What we're worried about is, once again, ending up, you get a ski resort, none of us are going to be mountain biking.
I'm in support of the ski area. I mean, I don't think it would be a bad thing. I think it would be a big boost to the.
Except you'll lose your access.
Hey, left.
Why wouldn't you be mountain biking?
Hey,
You're not
left.
going to lose.
Hey, left.
Maybe
Why wouldn't you be? You actually have better access to
Well, because he's already trying to privatize roads that have been open to the public.
The Hayloft Saloon might turn into a
The
sushi
county
bar.
courthouse not long ago, trying to keep your access
Because
clean.
this access up the
I don't see
backside
that.
wouldn't be affected.
No, it is
I don't
true.
think that's a resolved issue at this point either. I think
No, it's not resolved,
right.
but he's trying
maybe
to
you can make any kind of
privatize it.
accusation you'd like to.
What's that?
You can make all kinds of accusations. So
No, I
Let's
was at
keep
the
it.
court case.
Yeah, let's keep it. Let's number one. Let's try to have one person, two people talking at a time, and let's be respectful to each other. Okay.
I'll have one. Can I make one question? If it was a wilderness, what difference would it make to you? You
I'm
can still
more-
ski. You can ski. It's skiing now. It wouldn't make any difference.
I think our concern here was the fact that if we're looking for a long-term proactive solution so we don't keep doing
The
this.
real reason you're against it is because you don't want the skier.
Well, no, also, I think I know the area well, I think it's a good proponent. What I just said, though, is that if you wanted to keep it backcountry as an approach plan, that's fine with me. I'll do that 2.2 and then we can mount it. But it has the ecological integrity to be wilderness, and it also, you're right. I mean, why waste all the public's time and money fighting this all the time? It's a proactive solution.
The reality is that if it's anything more than 6.1, so the ski area is not enough. Based on their.
Oh, less than 6.1?
Yeah, if it's all on the other side, it doesn't affect any of this area.
And they always expand. This is only phase 1. Wait until they're at phase 3. I'm just saying, that's all, I understand.
I got one comment. What's the difference between backcountry and wilderness?
Well, this allows for a lot. You can ride, if he's worried about mountain biking, you can ride your
he can ride his bike, so what's the better?
Well, backcountry.
Nothing, I'm telling you, that's what I just said, and I'd be willing to change that.
Backcountry would allow no motorized use at all. I mean, wilderness would allow no motorized use at all. In backcountry, you could still use chainsaws for trail maintenance. You could still ride your bike.
So I'm with you.
Well, it said that motorized use would be allowed on existing or designated trails.
Yeah, like right now, we're getting ahead to 2.2, which are kind of related. But like in 2.2 is roadless, but it's roadless. There are some exceptions in some of the 2.2 in the preferred option. And the exceptions are generally the motorized routes that are presently open under the forest plan, under our current forest plan. So we'll get this 2.2, we're kind of there. The exception in 2.2 in the preferred option is the Mill Creek Trail because it's an existing motorized trail. And the only other exception in the preferred option in 2.2 is the Carlton Ridge Jeep Trail, which is motorized under permit to McClay only, but not the general public.
But it was promised to be reopened to the general public when they repaired the evidence.
It's open now to the National Forest boundaries, but not past it.
I don't understand where the National Forest boundary is.
Down up McLean Creek Road.
Well,
you know where the gate is there?
Yeah, but there's an alternate entrance through Mormon Peak Road.
Through which one?
Mormon Peak Road. That road connects with the road out of
2155, the drop down road?
I'm not sure what the number is, but it drops off of Mormon Peak Road into the canyon.
Right when you come around the south aspect, it goes down.
It's on this map.
Yeah, but it's not an open motorized route.
But like I say, it had been promised to be reopened when that landslide was repaired.
Oh, I'm not aware of that.
Well,
because the landslide was actually, the slough there came down like, down like 3 times.
right.
Yeah.
They kept saying that it was unsafe for the public to be on that road, so it was closed. But it was only closed to motorized. They were still letting hikers and horses on it. But that route has been in use for decades. And like I say, I've talked to the Forest Service in Stevensville, and they keep promising that that's going to be open as soon as that slope's stable.
We're talking about McLean Creek, where the big landslide was?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm talking about Mormon Creek, where the little slough was. Okay, we're at different places, I'm sorry. Yeah, I know what you're talking about now.
But the road that goes across what's-his-face's property that he closed years ago, that road connects with the road that comes in from Mormon Peak. And that was the route everybody was using until the landslide.
Okay, so, but we're kind of drifting into 2.2. How about I give a shot at summarizing 1.2? Okay? I'd say that we're basically divided. Tables divided. Some people support the 1.2 where it is, and some people do not.
But there would be some, just so that, I see the point with the 2.2.
Well, I think it'd be accurate to say that the majority was willing on 2.2 or more.
But I would stand for 1.2, but if we were making a decision now, I understand those concerns. So I want to be noted as that's what
say what you said again?
Well, it seems like the majority of people here would be willing to designate that as 2.2 or higher.
Okay, is everybody comfortable with that?
Well,
are you comfortable with that? I mean, you said you didn't know anything about the area. So
I don't know much about
it.
I guess I wouldn't stand for wilderness or nothing, but I guess backcountry area I would go along with. If that allows them out.
I don't think it makes any difference.
So if I were to say that the majority of the group felt that the 1.2 should be 2.2, would that be correct?
Yeah.
And then I'm going to make make a note. Okay.
I don't think it makes any difference. The dirt box there.
The other part of the western addition there, the wilderness area, I'm not real comfortable with that because I'm fairly certain that that's
over here.
kind of important to the snowmobile winter recreationists coming out of Elk Meadows. I'm not positive,
Is this
but
where you're talking about?
yeah, well, the west of the recommended wilderness proposal.
So capturing the 1.2 is the majority thought the 1.2 should be 2.2, but Hillary, you had a comment?
I just wanted to say that I like the, I would support the 1.2, but, I want it noted that one person supports it, but I understand the concerns and
Gotcha.
I would compromise.
But some support.
It makes sense. So this argument makes sense.
Okay. 2.2? Yeah.
Like 2.2?
Yeah, I was thinking go good enough to go to 2.2?
And I'd like to, on any of the 2.2, I don't think they've recognized all the existing motorized use in there.
On the, we're talking 2.2.
Right, 2.2. I'd just like to have the existing use recognized.
You know, I think you have to allow some motorized cross country for rooming. I think that's the place for the tool of cross country ski trips.
Take a lift over. How would you get up?
How do you go up there? Well, I don't know.
Well, they used to snowmobile up there all the time.
We can work that out.
Well, 2.2.
All I'm saying is just being snowmobile.
Everybody feel pretty familiar with what 2.2 is, or should we do a little summarizing on it?
That's the best ski. That's the best downhill ski terrain.
So what do we think about the 2.2 as proposed here?
It's great downhill skiing. I'll tell you.
Yeah. I'd like to see the 2.2 return to the MA11. I'd like to see the definition of 2.2 or be consistent with the current language and the current
Okay, I think it is. Do you think it's not?
It's not.
Okay.
It's different.
MA11 is different than 2.2. I know it's going to bug people, but the difference is motorized use. One is unsuitable and one is generally suitable.
In other words, you're not comfortable with the exceptions?
What's down here?
2.2, and so
I can read the difference.
kind of crosswalks with MA11 from the existing version.
If there's already use going on, that's fine. If it's already been, but I'm very
No motorized access.
I'm concerned about
Anybody can follow this.
expanding.
The problem with the 2.2 designation, wherever they've got it in the Lolo forest, is that it interrupts all the existing routes that go off of developed forest land up into undeveloped forest land and back.
The motorized routes?
Motorized use.
Well, in the 2.2 that we have, the exceptions in 2.2 in the preferred option are the roads that are open to motorized use now.
Right, but
Roads and trails.
they're only about 10% of the routes that are currently being used.
So you're saying there's more?
Oh, there's tons more, but you've got to know that the Lolo National Forest has every road and every trail closed, basically.
So are you
To
saying that
motorized
there's use behind closed, motorized closures, or are you saying there's additional roads and trails that are used?
There's additional roads and trails that aren't marked on this. And there's not necessarily in this area alone, but in the Lolo Forest as a whole.
How about in this area?
In this area, I believe the Mill Creek Trail is open for motorized use, but it is ostensibly closed because the Lolo Peak Trail that takes off from Mormon Peak closes it for a half mile before you get to it, and then you guys have a closure at the end of the Plum Creek
You're
Road.
talking about Landon Ridge, the road going up
The,
west side.
the Mill Creek Trail.
No, you can't get. You get up to that flat and you can't go anywhere.
Let me get travel plan.
But you think it's just the end?
Well, it's been made non-motorized by closing a half mile on each end of it.
Oh, I thought that.
No, technically Landon Ridge has been open and the Mill Creek Trail has been open, but they've been closed because of a small closure at each end
here's our travel plan map for the show.
Some of that area.
Oh, we're doing good. I think we're doing good. Okay. Okay. Who wants to look upside down? Maybe we can swing around the other side. Okay, so we're over here, and here's Landon Ridge. And if you look at this map, here's these two Plum Creek sections poking down, which are these two right here. Okay, and this is the only one that is in our area. So basically, we're talking about Circle Light like this.
Well, what I was saying, you go up this trail, you go up here, you can't go and disappear.
This is a year-round closure to motors this way. All these ones in orange are year-round motorized closures. And then this is the Ladder Ridge Trail. Like 1310.
No.
It's open.
That's not the
No,
That's Mill Creek
that's
there.
Mill Creek, 1310.
See, but the issue is that it's closed from
There,
here, from there to there, and then your guys' Plum Creek cooperation has got this section closed to motorized, so you can't access that trail. So,
Of course, it's been years since I've been up there. You go up here and you just get lost.
yeah, once you're above this little lake, the trail is grown over to the point because of sheer lack of use.
I see what you're saying. That's good. So what you're saying is that
So I would like to see a compromise that reopens this back up, either from access from this road for this half mile, or in cooperation with Plum Creek so we can access it from the bottom.
say Trail 3, 1310. These have an open motorized access.
As an exception to the 2.2 for motorized use.
Yeah. Needs an exception to access.
Right. Like I said, it's what it's going to require is that it's not very far. It's like a half mile from the end of the.
Am I wrong? This doesn't change the allocation. Just as you got
No, but that's a no. It's a
but
good
it's an
no.
important exception.
Yeah. The 2.2s include exceptions, and it's important to clarify what you think.
I have no problem with 2.2 as long as the motorized exceptions are in there, and as long as they're all noted in there.
Other discussion?
And I don't know, sometimes it's hard to follow this stuff. I don't think that would affect the road going down into the lake. I think most people that are wanting to access this road would be happy with not being able to go clear to the lake if they had to park at the top of the ridge.
The road is terrible.
Well, I know, but there's Volkswagen Beetles used to drive clear to the lake.
Well, they should.
Believe it or not, they did. They used to drive right down to the water's edge.
That would be another thing we'd like to see open.
Well, it's going to be kept open for many days down.
We'd like to see that road open back up for public access to Carlton Lake, because that road wouldn't affect hikers. Like you said, if you closed it at the top of the ridge, the hikers wouldn't have to come in contact with any motorized use. They'd have two totally separate routes.
Of course, I haven't been up there in a few years, but I think there's hardly any use of cars here. Everybody's the other way.
Right, they all come in from Norman Peak Trailhead because it's ridiculous to think people are going to walk up that road all the way from Highway 93.
My wife and I skied up there. So
You can drive. I don't know. Have you been up there last year, too?
It's not very great.
Peak side. They moved the gate. Remember how the gate used to be way down low? It's been moved up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's been moved up quite a ways, almost to the property down there. But it still is a bit of a hike pass over the principal.
Yeah, I mean, there's just with the decades and decades of motorized use that went up that road, it basically never changed in 40 years. Or maybe more than that. I'm sure whenever that dam was built was when they made that road.
So, can I maybe read back what I was hearing, see if I'm on track? What I heard was that there's generally agreement about 2.2 with some notations. And the notations are that the extent of the existing motorized use isn't recognized in 2.2. The 2.2 language should be the same as the existing MA11 and have no exceptions.
We're opposed to that because the MA11 language wouldn't allow for motorized use.
Oh, I know. I recognize that. Yeah. Yeah, your comments there too, and Hillary's is there. You have different opinions there.
I used to work for Forest. And one advantage of backcountry, it can always change. Because that's the objection.
That's why they push for the
But wilderness is
Wilderness is too permanent, in my opinion. I mean, I'm all for protecting the areas, but I would like to see the ability if something changes with the environment.
show you wilderness and write a letter.
Can I finish the summarization? Sorry.
They got their sign. You go to the sign.
Am I doing okay?
No,
Say less, say
no,
more.
no access to rattlesnake.
Then the other exception is Trail 1310. Trail 1310 needs an exception so it has motorized access from the area.
Right, and like I said, and that's basically what it's going to come down to.
The ski area was there before the wilderness, so
for the first part.
I don't think a few ski tracks are going to hurt though.
When I saw it on here, I got here. I see
If that land and ridge trail is open, then you can have a nice loop that goes over into the...
That's my business.
But his travel
I used to
plan
be the
map, right,
original
his
ski.
current travel plan map is showing land and ridge.
If you put a sign leaving ski area, in Utah I have one that says, go past this sign, you've died. Well, that's generally accepted.
And then the last comment I had was that Carlton Lake Deep Road, Carlton Ridge Deep Road should be open to public.
I used to do it.
Did I miss anything?
And if we can, I mean, if we could, I mean, I would like to see the land
Your knees
ridge
get
trail
those over fine quick.
open back up to motorized use too, because then that would create a motorized loop. It would be a great loop.
I might point out too that no one uses any of those trails.
I got to walk over and answer a question from another group. Would you mind starting the discussion on 3.2? And that's the research natural area, and it's right there, and I'll be right back.
It said that was beyond discussion, didn't you?
I'll be back.
Well, I have.
Yeah, it's that thing.
Here's what you get into. There's a little letter years ago.
We've got Steve Arno and Carlson right over there. They're the ones that push for the designation.
Yeah, Carlson. Trader.
The research natural area was
It's a big
established
joke.
so they could study some high altitude
Hybrid
trees.
Lodge. That's a new one.
I can't remember what tree it was, but I'm always suspicious about these little areas they designate for this and that, because generally the only bottom line is they just use them to close trails and roads.
They have a value.
Look at the area and what makes it unique and how the trees are growing, etc.
That they could do the same thing without separate designations. That's the only thing I'm always opposed to.
It's getting to the point where there's too many designations in the forest.
You know,
I mean, really.
as far as supervisor,
Because I mean, other than this being somebody's research area, it's basically a backcountry.
you can change.
It would do the same
not
thing
a
if it was in
research
backcountry.
The wilderness is
They still couldn't log
No,
it,
I
they
know.
still couldn't do anything.
No, she
Just
here's what the
wouldn't
Lolo.
have
doesn't
this
have the
special
authority to
thing.
do that, but
Look, here's what the Lolo Forest
I
plan
just get so suspicious of all of this
says.
stuff. I don't know if you've seen
Area
in
need
their,
not be in one solid block.
in their
Ski
main
runs
plan
could be
that they
located
designated
within
all
the
these
area.
little wild and scenic and
And then old
recreational
Orville
stream
decided he was going to kill the ski
things.
area.
They've even included the South Fork Lolo.
Without any public involvement,
Now,
he
that
made
isn't a
930
river,
of
it's
those.
barely a stream.
Present people say, well,
What's
this
the
is
point?
perpetual. Well, I don't know what
Well, the
the
point is,
this could be changed.
Look at it as
everything
wilderness.
would be changed.
designation, untrammeled, unmanned, so that it's allowed to develop the
Not a
way it should
research
be.
natural area. If they make a wilderness, they won't be able to, if they make a wilderness, they won't be able to do their thing.
Research area?
No,
Besides, if it's a
this
research
is
natural area for
just a
large,
little further
I used to be a
west of
forester.
what we're talking
you gotta let fires burn.
Probably should be. Anyway, okay, you want to talk about the 3.2 stuff? They're research natural areas, and basically they're areas they set aside to study this or that. Like say, my argument is that they could do the same thing if it was 3.1.
Yeah, see, only Congress can set aside a wilderness area.
Right. But that has nothing to do with wilderness.
No,
but
but
the
I mean,
point is that they generally manage those areas as wilderness. So it's just another way that they can stick a label on something and exclude the public for this reason or that reason.
most of them have purpose. But the thing is, if you look at this plan, it said area for research need not be in one solid block. Ski runs could be located within the RNA area as long as the primary objective. But then the researchers say, well, they believe the RNA and they said the RNA and a proposed ski area can coexist, provided no ski runs are placed. The researchers got their little play area there, and
So it's a beautiful area.
in terms of what 3.2 means, kind of where these
I think if you had a
RNAs came
few
from.
squeezes
In 1986, in our forest plan, we identified representative or unique habitat types or vegetation types across the forest. And then what we did is we targeted each of those we targeted one or two of those representative vegetation types across the forest as research natural areas or special interest areas. So that we would basically have a benchmark of unique or representative habitat types across the forest to kind of serve as an anchor to study in an undisturbed condition. The one that's in question here is a Carlton Ridge, and it was designated for the alpine larch. And it's not only unique as the alpine larch, but the aspect that makes it kind of additionally unique is it's alpine larch on a deep, well-developed soil. And alpine larch typically occurs on coarse, rocky stream types. So it's an interesting term. It's called a climatic climax. That means good and good. It's one of the best growing sites for alpine larch found, according to Steve Arnold and Pete Carlson, the scientists who helped set it up, found anywhere in Montana and probably anywhere in the U.S. perhaps. The
larch is all on top of the ridge, isn't it?
Well, actually, it extends down.
It has two components.
It has the alpine larch spread out, and then down in a couple of draws and openings down in this part of the RNA, it has a hybrid of western larch and alpine larch. Yeah, and it's pretty unusual. This RNA was originally proposed to extend over here, and the unique characteristics of that alpine larch community extended to the west. But in our 1986 forest plan, there was a statement that said that the scientists for the research natural area for alpine larch and the proponents of the ski area at that time in 1986 would work together so that they were mutually compatible. Now, at that time, the proposal was to have it extend over here, and at that time, the discussions of the ski area would all flow to the north, and you'd have a base over here toward Highway 12. So for that reason, the product of that compromise is that the research natural area was pinched off right here at about 900 acres, and the extension over here was dropped at that time.
Except there's hardly any large in that extension.
There's quite a bit of alpine larch in there. Yeah, there's some big ones on the ridge.
Actually,
some of the biggest and larger ones are over in this area. But anyway, it was dropped, so that's what it is.
Excuse me, why does the forest plan say this was meant to meet a target for the cool alpine type of thing?
It's alpine larches that are designated.
Yeah, it's not designated for larch. You got 2.5 million acres of wilderness, would be in need of mile 938 acres.
Proximity probably isn't and you guys can get to it to look at it. And there might be other sites that are probably.
Well, actually, no. This one isn't. It wasn't designated based on access. It was designated based on unique biological characteristics. And when you get up there and you walk through it and you see it and you hear from scientists what it is, and it's amazing. It's an unusual type. But anyway, that's what the 3.2 is. That's why the 3.2 is 900 acres now rather than larger, and that's why it lies there. But the forest plan did not in any way imply that the research natural area would be changed after designation for subsequent proposals. So that's why it stayed there. And now, a proposal came up to access the ski area from this area, which from the east, which is a different configuration. That's why it's there, and that's kind of what it's about.
Could be changed.
Research natural areas are designated in perpetuity, and while technically anything can be changed, they're not intended to be changed. And once designated, like this one, for example, there's a body of research that has developed since its designation in 1987.
Well, just to make a point,
Why waste time?
all of these designations is they all seem to be fairly negative, and it would read a lot better for me if instead of saying these areas are generally not suitable for motorized recreation, except perhaps for existing routes, if it would say that it was generally open for motorized recreation on existing routes.
The only argument I have is that they said that you could put ski trails in. I'm thinking
I don't disagree unless you disagree. I see it the exact opposite. I see it.
It's
There's
not
only
a-
one designation.
You're making a central scan of buildings.
Allows it. But I understood your argument. So we'll just agree to disagree.
So Larry, but what I was just hearing you say is kind of reflected in the comment we had on, because if you look at the generally open for motorized use on existing routes, what I heard you say, your comment on the Carlton Ridge Jeep Trail being open to public use, that's what you mean by this? Right. Because it does run along the top of the research natural area.
Right.
This
It
particular.
runs right up the top of that ridge.
So I note the same comment?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really opposed to 3.2 designations, but I can see them getting out of control.
So am I accurate to say generally okay with the 3.2 where it is, with the comments that, again, you think that it should be generally open on existing routes for motorized use, and Bob's comment that there should be cross-country skiing development. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, they agreed to it at one time, and then all of a sudden they said, no, we can't have anything.
Am I hearing right there?
Well, I'm with the Forest Service. Current.
I would rather keep it open, I would disagree with motorized use.
Okay.
Because I think motorized use disturbs the value of the research natural area.
There's only one problem. I'm not sure, but I'm not too sure that McClay had access before the forest was established.
I couldn't say that.
See, in certain cases they
Motorized
have
use
legal
disturbs
access.
the natural growth of
Well, no, you're right. That's what
research natural area.
Undesignated routes, it doesn't affect it at all.
Besides that, he has to maintain.
We're not asking to go moto through the trees, we want to be able to ride on existing routes.
Which is around the perimeter of it.
No, they used to build these
There's
damn.
one route around the perimeter.
they deal with it.
It's a Jeep road, basically, but it follows the Carlton Ridge all the way to the top, about where the hiking trail comes out on top, and then it drops down into Carlton Lake. Just saying, with the way things are anymore, I don't necessarily agree that motorized users would insist on driving all the way to the lake, although there is a road there. But I do believe it's important that people with four-wheel drives and ATVs, whatever, have a place to go. Have a place to go that has some intrinsic value because they go into the mountains for the same reason everybody else goes into the mountains, because they enjoy the scenery, they enjoy the wildlife, they just enjoy being out, basically all alone, nobody around.
Well, doesn't the motorized use disturb the value of the research natural area by not allowing the natural area to keep growing as it is? Doesn't it?
The road is going to be there no matter if that's even big wilderness, because McClay and other people have permits to drive up that road to maintain that dam. So the road's never going away. The road is, the question is whether that road's going to be open for public use or just one or two people being able to use it. But the road's going to be there no matter what. So unless you're thinking that the sound of a quiet motor driving through the trees somehow disturbs the trees, and I don't understand.
A quiet motor.
Well,
Have they developed those?
Well, most of the off-road vehicles by Forest Service regulation actually have quieter noise limits than they're required by street.
Well, I guess as long as it goes around the perimeter and it's existing.
Of course, it's just on the bound. We're talking about. Actually, the road isn't. You know, if you look at the map, the road isn't within that area.
They just said the perimeter. Around the perimeter.
Huh?
They just said it was around the perimeter of the research.
Yeah, but it isn't in it.
Okay.
Actually, the road does not go into this area.
It goes
Along the edge.
It goes into it a little bit. The road is in it, but it's just in it on the ridge. It's in it a little bit, meaning 100 feet. You know what I mean? It goes, the road goes, the steep road goes right along the ridge and it goes into it like some little places here. You see what I mean? It doesn't go down into it, it just kind of goes along the edge of it and kind of wiggles in and out of it.
Well, as long as it doesn't disturb the wilderness area, and as long as there's public access,
With you on
I
that?
guess I could go along with that. As long as it's not restricted to private access only.
But the road isn't any.
Public access.
The road isn't in any existing wilderness. The road does not go through any existing wilderness,
Okay.
and it just cuts the edge of it.
However, just for a note, the Little Carlson Lake is right now in litigation because McClay wants to use it.
Private access only?
Oh, I would guess so. It's in designated wilderness, but he needs the water for the ski resort. And so he's in the court trying to rebuild a breached dam and get motorized access through the wilderness. So there's an implication of your ski resort.
That's, if it's in wilderness, we're not concerned.
No, well, it's in the courts, so the courts are listening to you. So it's not.
But the road actually skirts the ridge, and I've walked to the ridge and found all the wilderness boundary markers, and it's a considerably steep cliff for, 1,000 feet or more.
Yeah, the wilderness boundary's on the ridge and then the wilderness. I mean, it really drops right down. No, you go off the cliff.
Until they develop a new machine.
You can't ride from the road into the wilderness without dying.
Land cruisers.
You can go once.
Yeah, you can go once.
Have you ever, I don't want to change the subject, but has anyone ever considered that staying the larch that's on the ridge, when that turns, you can see that, except the climate here is so crappy, there's that golden cap of that alpine larch.
Beautiful on Carlton
really
Ridge in the fall. That is gorgeous.
Yeah, and then Arno and Carlson are saying it turns like almost on clockwork. It's like September 20th or like September 18th. It's almost in a really short time period every year. The color just turns. It's amazing. Can I try to see if I got this? Okay. Talking 3.2 research natural areas. I heard that we're generally okay with it with these comments. Some disagree with the motorized use in it. Some would like the existing motorized routes open to the public. And some cross-country ski development should be okay.
I support the Forest Service proposal.
Okay.
RNA is good.
So what Dan proposed
Some keep as proposed. Okay. Gotcha?
I think you should note also that private access should be discouraged. Private access to existing roadways should be discouraged.
You mean exclusive or?
Exclusive access, okay.
Is that what you mean, Phil?
I think so.
I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Right, right.
Right.
So you're saying open to the general public or not open at all?
Except for the maintenance of the
Yeah,
dam. is just-
that sounds right.
I'm trying to catch what you think.
Well, I'm not comfortable with a person, a landowner, having exclusive rights to the road.
Well, he's got access to it right now because of water usage.
Well,
That's why.
exclusive is what I'm saying. That
Right.
keeps everyone else
No, I
away from
agree.
it.
I mean,
Well, in a rattlesnake where I live, the water company has exclusive water access to the dams.
That's true.
Doesn't seem to hurt anything.
But that motorized access was guaranteed to the general public in that national recreation.
No, it wasn't.
2 years later, the Forest Service.
Yeah, well, that's,
Well, we're getting another.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I don't know what the
Okay, so do we have consensus agreement that there shouldn't be exclusive use on it, or just some people feel that way?
I don't, I mean,
I don't think there's a way around that based on agreements that he has.
I think, yeah, legally that'd be a hard.
I'm just asking for positions and opinions.
He's got water rights if we include the Forest Service.
There we go.
Okay, what do you say? The water rights necessity.
So there's concern about exclusive access, but people understand the rights because of water rights. Is that correct?
Within because there's a whole irrigation association that's not just, we know you're supposed to. That's the one with the cutting on it. What's going on?
That's under investigation.
Still.
They got, when I'm starting to losing some trees and there's still snow there, actually the snow just all went away like 2 weeks ago. 10 days ago. Yeah, I was up there the end of the week before 4th of July and there were still little drifts.
So someone said there was cut in the RNA. Is that right, or is that
That's good. Good? Hanging in there?
Yeah, so I was just one quick question on this. Was that part of the maintenance of the road, or he was out taking trees outside the road?
That's what's under investigation. I understand exactly what.
I think we should move on.
Okay. 3.3. 3.3 is general forest low intensity management, and there is no 3.3.
Yeah, right there.
Well, that's proposed
Steve's
by Lolo Peak, but there isn't. Sorry. Yeah, there isn't. That's because of soil instability. So we don't have another.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. On the bid route there is. I'm thinking Lolo.
But right now it's.
You're right, Larry.
Well, I'd say
Well, in this map, they proposed to move this to 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, here's where the 3.3 is in the
Oh, I'm
proposal.
sorry, I'm wrong. Hold on, we moved it to 4.1 instead of 5.
that's all lobby, that's
All
all
because
full
of,
of road.
well, because of all the instability.
Yeah, we're not there. Yeah.
So we don't have to pay for it.
So 3.3 we're talking about here on the bid route of Carlton Creek and Upper McLean. And 3.3, a little refresher, is general forest low intensity management. And it's, you can harvest timber there, but you don't harvest timber, you don't manage timber for to maximize timber growing potential. You can harvest timber there and manipulate the stand for other resource purposes, be it wildlife or fuels or watershed or other things like that. So you still have a management capability there, but you're not subject to the NFMA rules and all for restocking for extensive timber management that comes with the 4.1 and 5 ton. What do we think here?
So is there actual, I mean, I wish,
I have a question. You said the access to the ski area was going to be from this side. Is that area right in there the proposed area for the ski runs or something?
we weren't provided ski area.
Some of them would occur in the 3.3
This is the
as proposed and
but
rejected.
not the existing.
There would be, under the proposal that was denied, would be some development in this project.
Well, I'm
Could have
generally
burned
in
anyway.
favor of the concept of 3.3, but in reality, every single road or trail's normally closed. So,
Yeah, my thing right now is, well,
It says something here too about the assortment of recreational opportunities in the
generally suitable for a mix of fish and wildlife habitat, a relatively natural visual quality setting, assortment of recreation opportunities, a variety of goods and services, other goods and services. Generally suitable for managing vegetation in low intensities.
we generally don't have a problem with restricted use to established roads and trails, but as a general rule, they're all closed, they're all gated. So, and if there's a trail beyond a road, then they put a gate at the end of the road that says it's closed, so then you can't get to the trail. The whole Lolo Creek's like that.
Well, in this particular area, there's the McLean Creek Road is in it, right up in here. And it's, like I say, the gate has been moved up from the lower location. Now it's up near, not exactly up, but near the National Forest boundary. And then there's only one other trail in it, Trail 326 on the Bitterroot, which runs up off of Maple Creek up in here. And I can't speak to this trail, I don't know it.
What is this, does that say 326?
326 is, yeah, that's the trail.
That's this here?
Let me see that there.
The trail coming off the road that goes all the way across to the corner of this district.
Oh, right there. That one you're looking at is McLean Creek Road.
Okay.
Yeah, the 326 is south and off of this map. It's down like right here. Down there.
That's why I say I would generally not have a problem with that designation as long as the roads and trails are actually open, but I'd say you're generally closed.
So you're okay with what we have here, but in this specific case, you would want Carlton Ridge Trail, Carlton Ridge Deep Trail, McLean Creek Road open all the way.
Right.
Or, is that correct?
Or if there was access from the gated road on what's the other peak? Mormon Peak Road. That road also intersects the Carlton Creek, or the McLean.
Well, I think I'd be happy with the recreational activities that are there now, but developing it further so that you have ski trails or further development seems unsuitable.
We're not generally looking to increase the number of roads or trails on the forest. just having access.
We're gonna talk about
Probably end up being one.
Yeah. 4.1 will be our next one.
Really appreciate the perspective.
Okay with existing recreation activity, okay, but existing roads should be open and motorized use?
Existing roads and trails.
Am I hearing you right? Tell me if I got it wrong, because I want to be sure.
Actually, this isn't an allocation thing, this is a wildlife, they
Yeah.
close it for wildlife.
So,
or some other thing.
generally we're okay with the designation with these comments.
Every wildlifer wants to close a road as long as he gets a key to the gate.
My focus is on that little exception.
They want to close the road as long as they get a key to the gate.
And existing recreational opportunities, I think are fine.
They don't want to
But
walk.
developing more recreational opportunities,
And that gets people mad.
ski runs or lodges or whatever, seems inappropriate. Let's put it that way.
Okay with existing,
I'm with that.
You have to get into the 6.1.
You can get visit facilities at 4.1 and 5.1, but nothing like, a base lodge.
okay, can I see how I did here? Generally okay with the following comments. Existing roads and trails should be open to motorized use. And existing recreation activities okay, but no additional development, no additional recreational development.
I'd like to see potential for, there's already clear cuts up there. There's already logging exists. So I would like to see those guided and directed, so I would like to see a potential for development, specifically a ski area.
Well, we agree to disagree there.
You can take a look at both of them. If you look at, if you just drive up to the bottom of Sawmill Gulshare, and you look at the runs as they're cut ecologically, and then look at the clear cut right behind it, I think it speaks for itself.
So what's leaving the opportunity is that 6.1?
No, you're not going to try to develop a base facility in here, but you do need to have access to bring your trails across it.
Oh, so you'd be, what designation would make that?
Well, it's,
Like a 5 point something?
or,
5.1?
I'm not sure how low you can go with that.
I wonder, do you know? Like if you were going to cut trails, and I don't know if a lift would go through there, would that have to be 5.1?
If you wanted to have developed recreation, like with lifts and ski runs, you'd be in the 6 million.
So it has to be 6.1. It can't be anything else.
That's developed recreation complex. That's the highest level of recreation.
Even though it's only a trail.
Well, you said lift.
Okay, I don't know if
So I don't-
cut there.
I'm not sure that there's lifts that want to go across this section, but there are some trails I think they would like to come across here.
So they could do that.
There's already some
Well,
logging
if you
in
had
there.
if you had trails meaning ski runs, yeah, you'd be 6 million.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you had ski runs, associated with lifts, part of a developed ski area.
It's a lot different than a clear cut.
Well, that's in the eye of the beholder. Yeah, that's another topic. Yeah.
So then what you're saying, it exists up there right now is a 6.1.
It's not. The difference is if it's just clear cuts, it's not developed, as opposed to if you have lifts and groomed developed runs, then it is developed. It's developed. So like a clear cut on a hillside that somebody might walk up and ski through isn't considered developed recreation.
The real issue is if you have a ski area, you're going to have to environmental impact statement. So you're going to start from scratch and all that stuff.
Okay. You good with 3-3? You doing all right?
I'm too old to argue about it.
You've got the exceptions.
I don't know.
It's funny in each one you say generally okay,
Your day will come.
and then after that we all contradict each other. So that's okay.
Well, we're not going to be in 100% agreement.
That's right.
And, I believe in maximum electrical use of the forest. So for me, I'd just soon see it all in 4.1 and 5.1. Sometimes that isn't the best use. willing to concede that in some of these areas as long as they allow the public access to the forest.
That's what we're here for. Find those areas of agreement. Okay, great. Ready for a little 4.1 action? 4.1 is right over here. We got a chunk of 4.1 right here on the Bitterroot, on McLean, and we got 4.1 on Mormon Ridge, Mormon Creek Bottom that we were talking about. So,
What's it say?
I thought there was 5.1 going on.
there is 5.1.
Oh, but we're not there.
Yeah, we're not there yet.
I'm sorry.
So for 4.1, it's called General Forest Moderate Intensity Management, and it emphasizes a balance of sustainable ecosystems and resource uses with lands that are suitable for timber production. These lands are generally suitable for a mix of fish and wildlife habitat, a relatively natural visual quality setting with moderate evidence of human management activities, a wide range of recreation opportunities, and a variety of other goods and services. Landscapes appear modified with roads and vegetation management activities are evident at moderate levels. It is, Larry, you've had a lot of comments about the motorized. In the recreation opportunity spectrum, it's considered semi-primitive motorized. As is 3.3, the last one, is considered semi-primitive motorized also. The recreation opportunity spectrum, what it means is that you have a semi-primitive setting, which means you have a low level of facility type development, but it is a motorized area, motorized use is allowed. So you don't have a lot of, like you would have like trails and roads, but you wouldn't have you would have a semi-primitive setting.
Okay, I've got you. I just didn't know if it was in terms of like what type of motorized use, whether you had to use like...
No. The semi-primitive setting, motorized is the use. Yeah.
I have no argument with this. Here again, the Mormon Creek, the only people that go to Lolo Creek use the Mormon Creek Road. Why they keep it closed
Big game in open.
I know what they do, but why they keep it closed till May 15th? Why don't they open it May 1st? It has nothing to do with the plan. I've been up there many a time. I think they could open it earlier. It has nothing to do with this.
But most of the road closures they have on the forest could be open early. Look at the North Fork of Lolo, that's June 1st. That road's dry and bare from about the 1st of March.
The elk alone dry.
Right. Right, but they don't. It can be dry and dusty for a month, but it'll be closed in case it's money.
That's just a detail. That isn't in the forest plan.
Well, the May 15th, for example, on the closure on Mormon Creek Road, 612, is based on the biologist's recommendation on when the winter range use, spring end of the winter range use is over. That's where that comes from.
I don't know many biologists. They're always a little on the cautious side. Give and take. But that has nothing to do with this.
So 4.1, we've got an open road all the way up to the top of the old Mormon Peak Lookout. This part of 4.1. Next down with Highway 12. So it's all that open south-facing bunchgrass Mormon Ridge country, Elk Range. And then this piece is also 4.1 right down here. Also has some range functions. And I think
Got some houses up in there.
not on this piece and not on this piece. Part of this piece, though, that I know what you're talking about, that Ronan Road development up there right by Trader Brothers and Honey's Barn as a residential development that is right up against this 4.1.
Well, where's Carlton Ridge? Can you tell me where?
Right here.
That's the ridge.
Yeah, that's the ridge. And it kind of comes down more over here as opposed to where this 4.1 is.
Where's the place? On the property.
It's right. here's that Ronan Road right here, and there's a lot of residential development right up here. Yeah, you can see the road system there. There's the Trader Brothers, there's Honey's Bar, here's New 93, here's Old 93, and the place right here.
Place is right here on this. He's right there at that point. That's you turn off New Highway 93, go across straight across his house, and it's right there at that point.
But he's also got a house right there. They had a special elk up there.
They have some.
Might be a son of.
Well, their property extends around over here.
Right.
Yeah, but the places.
His house is just this side of that tent bar. His property comes clear to this road right here.
Okay, if I can have your attention just briefly. In the next 15 minutes, we'd like groups to summarize those areas of agreements they have, because we're winding close to 9 o'clock. People are starting to finish up. So we're going to give you about 15 more minutes to cover the last bases. Facilitators document those areas of agreement and be ready to report out.
4.1.
Generally in favor of it as long as existing routes are open.
But I'd also like to make a point that since that's an area that's considered accessible for motorized use, it's a pretty big area, and I don't think there's a single track trail in the whole area. And every road is closed except the main road that goes up to Mormon Peak Road.
That
Every
area
other
would
one is
be,
gated.
that would be a good area to develop a single track motorized route.
So the idea, the problem we run into.
That would be compatible with the management area allocation. That's that's the allocation issue. That's it's a semi-primitive motorized. If it was 4.1, you could still do that.
It would be open to develop a new route.
Yeah, because it's semi-primitive motorized.
See, the problem that we run into is dealing with, Sarah Club and all them, is that they'll point at this area and say, well, look, you have this whole area that's open. But in reality, it's all closed. So, I mean, I just want to make that point. That even though it says it's open, it's actually closed.
There aren't any routes.
There's nothing. Right.
But if you go to the allocation issue, under 4.1, you could develop motorized routes. That's kind of the level we're talking about.
But you could build them. Or do they have to be existing?
No, in 4.1 you couldn't, because it's semi-primitive motorized.
That'd be an excellent place to go up to the parking lot on top of Mormon Peak Trailhead and make a trail going down the ridge for the mountain bikes.
So are we okay with 4.1? I mean, I understand your comment, but it would still be allowed, so I wouldn't make that as a comment, because you still could do that with the 4.1. Okay, we're okay.
Most of the road closures is wildlife things.
I think you need on that one to identify the wide range of recreational opportunities itself. That opens the gate to many things. I think you need to be more specific about the wide range of recreational opportunities. That phrase right there could open a gate to anything practically.
Did that one change? Maybe that's from this table's like 2.3. From MA11 to 2.3, the wording changed. I'm just curious.
I gotta see what the crosswalk is.
You don't have to do all that research. I just wondered if you do. I think I've only got MA11. Don't worry about it. I can look later. I agree with that. Yeah, I'll look later. I've got it.
Sorry.
It's just that phrase, wide range of recreational opportunities, variety of other goods and services.
And I noted that need to better identify what the wide range of recreation opportunities are.
I think so. Yeah.
I'm sorry if I'm getting hurt. I'm just trying to see if we get through 5 plus minus 6.
Goods and services basically it would be open for outfitting and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's all. Even wilderness is that way.
High permit.
Right.
Okay. 5.1 is this area. South of Lolo Creek, north of the Carlton Ridge Research Natural Area, is darkened area. 5.1 is like It's called general forest high intensity management. And in these areas, you would be managing most intensity of all the management areas for timber. You'd be trying to maximize growth. You'd be intensively revegetating them right after timber harvest. Trying to grow trees.
Just our members, there's a number of our constituency that's concerned with turning that, just making that whole area 4.1, and that's because of the soil stability. Was there's interest in that.
Let's see the,
They were concerned with high intensity timber.
actually when they made a study of Lolo Peak in '88, Lolo Forest made really intensive soil supplies. And they're quite good. You looked at them?
No, I haven't looked at those. The closest I guess I could talk to there is
Dork's the ecocide, I didn't even know about it. Soil and water guy. He called me and said, where did you get this stuff? I said, we're in Missoula, get it. But they really did have pretty intensive soil supplies. You can't hear.
I know. I can't hear what you're saying.
Well, what I'm saying is the Missoula district, because of the proposed ski area, made some really intensive soil surveys there.
Yeah.
They're quite good.
We've got all, I mean, except that it's,
Well, I mean, they are. They've got all the areas delineated, and ecocide, the fellows who planned the ski area, they didn't even know about it. They sort of got mad at me when I told them.
Can you tell me how
there's different signs.
it's quite steep.
Very
Yeah,
steep.
it's pretty steep.
But the soils are,
does that make a
it's
difference?
real spotty.
It's roaded.
But it is a problem.
There are roads and past logging in it. There's old clear cuts and stuff there.
They got landslides, but
And there is
with
a
the
slough.
information they got now, I think they got
There is a slough right here, just north of it, but there is one little slump right here indicating it's
all
not
been
stable.
cut.
That was just a concern of theirs. That was just their concern. That high intensity management of an area that's been unstable is not looking.
got to cut trees somewhere.
Concerned about 5.1.
Well, that's all we're not. And they're going to have to wait a few
Or in
decades.
some ways, it does destroy the look of the peak, doesn't it?
Yeah, you know, I mean, you guys, I mean, it's kind of, well, I shouldn't voice opinion.
I don't know if that's visible from.
It's not visible.
Oh, it's not visible?
It's pretty narrow canyon through there.
Kind of faces south, southeast.
Yeah, there's a ridge right here that blocks your view of it from Missoula, and so you know it comes up to this ridge and then goes down to this creek bottom, and then this goes right back up. It's all pretty
Okay,
steep.
the view from Missoula is basically blocked by the subdivision and Lolo on the hill.
Yeah,
As far as seeing that.
Actually, you can't see all the pictures.
Well, if it's just in kind of a gully or canyon in there,
It's real narrow.
I guess I'd have a concern about the steepness of it for actual timber production, but
I don't
if they
think
can do it.
Done already.
that Lolo already said eroded everything. I doubt if they could ever get it past now.
No, it was a,
It's so steep. And since the roads are already there, it's in reasons. It's in that position.
That creates an issue that we have to have budget dollars to maintain and keep the siltation and the problems under control. So if you lower the designation, you have less budgeted dollars, and the existing problems, and then you accelerate without the proper care. Every forest has a budget, and they set that money out to certain areas. Now this area is already eroded, so the problems already exist. If you say, okay, let's diminish the designation now, let's just go back to wilderness. Great, all that. Instead of putting water bars on the road, those roads are going to run off facilitation into the streams, and you're going to have problems. So you need to have the budgeted dollar amounts at these higher intensity management areas. They have to get more money to mitigate the problems that already exist. So if you get to the wilderness and you end up with problems that are not taken care of, it's a good way to kind of slam the door and say, well, we did it, sorry.
With our budget, like for example, like if you have a watershed issue, we get a watershed budget, and our watershed budget, for example, is not disaggregated based on the management area, it's across all management areas. So you can still go in and do erosion control and all on 5.1, as well as you could on 3.3, as well as you could on 1.2, for example.
And that deals with reforestation and all that also.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, the budget isn't directly commensurate with the numerical value of the MA. So,
read the comments back to us.
all I've got is concerned about 5.1 with soil stability and steepness.
Okay, the only other concern I have.
Is that correct?
And move it to 4.1.
Or you want to move to 4.1?
That's just the members' input. The members' concern.
On any of the 4.1, 5.1, whatever, 5.2, I'd like to see the Lolo Forest come in line with the three-state off-road vehicle management plan that allows for use on established roads and trails rather than designated roads and trails, because it seems like we can't get anything designated. And by having a Lolo Forest is the only one that's not signed on to the three-state management plan, it makes it real confusing.
Well, I used to do this in Forest Service too, the roads and trails. When you get, especially in open country, what's an established road?
Well, it's spelled out in there.
A couple of wheel ruts, you know, off the road. It's a real problem.
Lolo should allow use on established instead of designated roads and trails, and we've got concern about 5.1 in regards to soil stability, and it should be changed to 4.1. Good? Okay, 6.1, of which there isn't any here. The 6.1 is the, I'm sorry, residential areas. Okay.
Let them burn.
I'm not gonna make a move.
I'm sorry, I missed the residential areas. 5.2 is it's basically a mile and a half of developed areas. It's like what you used to call the rural-urban interface. It's kind of the area of national forest that's influenced by adjacent residential development.
You all deputized me.
Do we have in that?
Yeah, we got it just yeah, we just got a buffer, a little piece of it, right?
Yeah, it's the same on this one.
It was determined based on the proximity from the highway and the residential area. So it's basically from this line down to the highway.
Okay.
Okay. 6.1. Develop recreation complexes. There is not any in this area in the preferred option.
The only ones that would be on the Lolo Forest would be Snowball and
Marshall.
Marshall, right?
Yeah. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Blue Mountain and Patty Kansas. Recreation areas. So if you think about developed recreation complexes, ski areas are one of them, but recreation areas are also. So that's why Blue Mountain, Patty Canyon, Snowball, Marshall.
Okay, I think we're wrapping up. Some folks are already headed out the door, so we're trying to capture each of your tables, areas of agreement, and what facility.
And start moseying towards the other end of the room, so it's gonna be like Russian roulette. Who's first? So, where's our facilitator? How about right here?
Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Good discussion.
I'm here. And I haven't collected my thoughts. But I'll read my notes and hopefully they'll be fair. The recommended wilderness management area that's currently on the proposal, there's unanimous support for. We had a lot of discussion about whether to incorporate or not the area around Lolo Peak. And general feeling like it should be protected, but we really don't have enough information to know whether it should be backcountry, whether it should be a special area, whether it should be recommended wilderness. We were split on that. Agreement on the research natural area 3.2, that's a pretty special place for them, and because of its unique ecological characteristics, and keep that in place and don't mess with it. In terms of, and the other discussion we had was with respect to management area 6.1. We didn't get consensus on that anywhere. 7 of the 9 thought it was inappropriate anywhere in Lolo Peak area, but really there's not enough information on resources, soils, wildlife, snowpack to make a complete determination, but 7 out of 9 felt strongly about not allowing that use. And then just some other notes, some concern about sensitive soils, especially in 4.1 and 5.1, and encourage the Forest Service to take a hard look at and make sure that any management, potential management in those areas reflect the sensitive soils. And I think that's the main thing. We couldn't get real specific because we didn't have a lot of resource information.
Thank you, Tom. So as we do our report outs, I hope that we can keep them pretty succinct and move them right along. We've got, I don't know how many tables in here, 30 or so, so if we can keep it to about 2 minutes a table, I think we'll move right along. Thank you.
With our group, okay, 1.2 recommended wilderness, it was to move the recommended wilderness 1.2 boundary to put the Lantern Ridge Trail inside of the recommended wilderness boundary 1.2, and that would be the ridge out to the northeast. Go up that ridge to the 6,000 foot mark, follow that along 6,000 feet until it touches the RA Research Natural Area. And then the area below the 6,000 foot elevation would be the 2.2 backcountry, and the area above 6,000 feet would be the 1.2. The Research Natural Area was recommended that be included in the proposed, or the existing Research Natural Area was to be included in the wilderness, proposed wilderness 1.2, with the proviso to allow for the research that currently takes place to continue on in there. The group was okay with 3.3 as on the map. They were okay with the 4.1 designation. 5.1 wanted that changed to 4.1. So there would be continuity, tie it all together as 4.1. The group was okay with the residential forest intermix designation, and had no 6.1 in its proposal.
Thank you, John. We'll try to make these go as quickly as we can. It looks like a long ways to the end of the room.
Okay, real quickly, this group recommends the wilderness as 1.2 as proposed, but then including as much of the 2.2 as feasible. And again, we didn't have enough information to draw lines, but generally including, there's currently some motorized access to Mill Creek, so that part might be excluded, but including as much as the 2.2 that was viable to add to that. In general, the 2.2, again, keeping 2.2 where it was viable, where the 1.2 couldn't overlap that, and adding sections 13 and 14 to 2.2 instead of what's currently a 5.1. The 4.1, we were okay with that. The 5.1 recommended that it be either a 4.1 or a 3.3. And the 5.2 and 6.1 left as there was a 6.1. Just generally, if it's currently managed as a roadless, continue to manage as roadless, and areas where there is management to continue to allow that flexibility.
Thank you.
This group wanted additional wilderness areas surrounding Lolo Peak, incorporating Ground Lake. This would extend the wilderness to the research area would include sections 21, 22, 27, 28, and a portion of 26. 2.2 backcountry area, this group wanted to add sections 13 and 14 to the backcountry status. These are currently 5.1. It also mentions a small sideline, but adding additional parking at the trailhead there. Research natural area, section 23 west of Carlton Ridge NRA was to be included in either MA 3.2 NRA or MA 1.2 backcountry. Wilderness, excuse me. 3.3 need to maintain the buffer and keep 3.3 as drawn on this alternative map, so that we want to keep that the same. Change section 17 and 18 of 5.1 on preferred alternative map to 4.1. Leave remainder of 4.1 as is. And 5.1, they wanted to eliminate all of this MA. 5.2 agreed that this was a good MA as it designated in this alternative. In 6.1, the group did not want any of this MA in the Lolo Peak area. There's also a quick mention of consolidating and acquiring some of the Plum Creek land for Forest Service.
Thank you, Gary. Nan?
Okay, our group moved through these pretty quickly. On the recommended wilderness 1.2, the entire group had consensus about supporting the lands that are designated as 1.2 now, and about half of our group actually liked the proposal by the Friends of the Lolo Peak to expand there. In 2.2, the group had consensus to expand that area to include the area around the Mormon Peak trailhead, again similar to the Friends of the Lolo Peak proposal. In 3.2, there was real strong consensus here that that's one of the most unique things about this area. It's the research natural area, and that it should be expanded, considering the traits and the geographic features, to make sure that the species for which that area is set up are well protected. 3.3, the general forest. In general, this group was in strong consensus about that area, but the concern was how it's administered, and that there needs to be active administration to make sure that any limitations on timber management and motorized use are administered carefully. And there's a strong desire to make sure that there is no developed recreation, motorized recreation that might be consistent with 6.1 designation. In areas 4.1 and 5.1, there was a concern about the proximity of those areas to places like the 1.2 and the RNA. And so the desire was that they would prefer that both of those areas be designated as 3.3 in keeping with the surrounding lands, and then carefully, again, administer those lands to ensure compliance and that the traits are protected. And again, with the same limitations that developed and motorized recreation, similar to what you might find in 6.1, would not be approved. And furthermore, on these 4.1 and 5.1 lands, there was a desire for the MA to be expanded a little bit if these lands have been hard hit by noxious weeds or timber management in the past, that the designation in this area should focus on restoration work. The 5.2 area, residential and forest intermix, there's a concern about fuel reduction and just a general statement and a desire to make sure that fuel reduction treatments are appropriate for the forest type and not used just to casually justify commercial logging. And there's also a concern about the potential to trade out of lands in this area and a desire that that tool be used very cautiously. In general, there was a concern that clear cutting really isn't an acceptable practice any longer, that adjoining MAs should have fairly consistent, not consistent, but traits and purposes that blend well with each other. So there's a general blending between the designations rather than the harsh boundaries and the changes in use. And an example is where 1.2 lands were right adjacent to 4.1 lands. There's also a concern about the Plum Creek lands in the area and an encouragement to acquire those lands, like what's occurring up in the Blackfoot, and a desire for the protection of the natural areas. And we have a good mix of voices here.
Thank you. Mike?
Okay, our group, for 1.2 recommended wilderness, we had 8 out of 9 favor the status quo,
and or to expand the 1.2 into the currently 2.2, except for one person who wanted 6.1, sorry. 2.2 backcountry areas, 8 of 9 people wanted the status quo or moved more into 1.2, except for one who wanted 6.1. 3.2 research natural areas, 8 of 9 liked the RNA and want the status quo or to expand it where possible and were scientifically legitimate. There was one that was opposed to that. Seeing a trend. 3.3 general forest mixed uses, low intensity. Generally status quo with some sentiment to move to a lower number or higher protection. And there was one that wanted to move it up to 4.1. 4.1. There was, generally people wanted to move the 4.1 all the way across the board to move towards the 3.3 or lower level wherever it's feasible. There was one exception to this sentiment, but all agree that they need to deal with the roads that are up there in some way. 5.1, general forest mixed uses of high intensity. 8 of 9 say no 5.1 anywhere in the area. 1 of 9 says yes, because he would like to see a reduction in the number of trees to make better skiing. 5.2, residential and forest intermix. There was general agreement with 5.2 as it is. There was with no expansion on it. This really wasn't not a controversial issue. 6.1, high use recreation complexes or use areas. Generally all opposed to any 6.1 with the exception of 1 or 2, possibly 2 of the individuals. And that is, that was 7 or 8 out of 9, and they weren't really very close to agreement on that. But general notes, generally the table wants the maximum protection for the area wherever possible. I heard terms like sacred mountain, the elk herds out there, the wildlands, the pinnacle of the largest wild area in the lower 48. But there was one brave soul consistently opposed to protection and favoring 6.1 or more development throughout the area.
Believe it or not, I was a slow facilitator. I had the hardest working group here because we didn't get quite as far as everyone else. And we didn't vote in our group. What we did was we looked at majority answers. Under 1.2, the group agreed that at a minimum 2.2 designation was appropriate, with some wanting 1.2 designation in those areas and some wanting perhaps 3.2. With the minimum of the 2.2, we want to use the existing definition without changes. We didn't want to be working with the sliding scale. For the 2.2 areas, we agreed that there would be no new roads. There was no agreement on moving to a 1.2 designation. Some philosophical disagreement, excuse me, wrong place. .2. Majority felt that 3.2 was correct, while a minority believed that 2.2 was the minimum level that was appropriate for the area. Some proposed the 3.2 status being extended further to the west into the 2.2 area. Others felt that the area should be extended to cover all area that was scientifically the same. Majority agreed that there should be no 6.1 area in the Lolo Peak area, with the minority feeling that that option shouldn't be precluded. And I have to say that that was decided after the close of the discussion time.
Thank you, Paula. I think I passed over a group over here. Sorry?
Well, most of our group was in general in favor of using the land for what would benefit the most people. That was kind of the general consensus.
Do you have notes?
And we also felt that recreation was an appropriate use of Forest Service lands, and we would like to see less timber and more recreation. We felt that the existing recreation areas in the Missoula Valley were starting to be overused, and that, you know, designating the current 5.1 as 6.1 was appropriate. We also felt that the current 3.2, the research natural area, should stay as is, and that the 2.2, the backcountry, should stay as is. We liked the 5.2, the residential forest intermix designation, and also felt that trying to acquire some of the Plum Creek land was, in the area's best interest as well.
Thank you. Andy?
We had some great discussion in our group, and the majority thought that the 1.2 should be 2.2, but some supported it saying 1.2. In backcountry areas, 2.2, we were generally okay with the designation with a few varying comments. Some felt that the extent of the existing motorized use isn't recognized in 2.2 and that there was more. Some felt that the 2.2 language should be the same as identical to the existing management area of 11, which is a roadless designation in our current plan, and that there should be no exceptions to motorized use. Felt that Trail 1310, which is the motorized trail exception in 2.2, needs to have access to either end. It's kind of stuck on the bottom by Village Road on Plum Creek and on top by the Forest Service trail closure. Some felt that the Carlton Lake Jeep Road should be open to public motorized use, and some felt that Lantern Ridge Trail should be an exception to 2.2. In the research natural area 3.2, we were generally okay. There was some disagreement about the motorized use. Generally saying that there was concern about exclusive access by one person along the Carlton Ridge Jeep Trail, but folks understood rights of access from water rights. Some just wanted to keep it as proposed. Some thought the cross-country skiing development should be okay. And some want existing motorized routes open to the public, which would mean the Carlton Ridge Jeep Trail would be open to everybody, motorized. In 3.3, we were generally, these almost start out like generally okay, and then there were all the comments after that weren't. But that was, that's how it went. So 3.3 was generally okay, but existing roads and trails should be open to motorized use. They're okay with existing recreation activity, but no additional recreation development. They're okay, but they want potential for ski area. They want potential for ski development since the area has already been logged and has some clear cuts of roads. In 4.1, the group was okay with it, but they wanted a better definition of the management area description of what a wide range of recreation opportunities means. What is that wide range? In 5.1, general forest, high intensity, there was a comment that Lolo allow use on established roads, motorized use on established roads and trails instead of designated roads and trails. And there was a concern that we had 5.1 there in an area that has soil stability, and comment that we should change it to 4.1. We were okay with 5.2 and 6.1. We were okay with how it was, and the comment consensus in the group was if somebody wants to develop a ski area, they should do it on their own property.
Let's keep the editorial comments down. Okay. And Cynthia. So again, focusing on agreements, so because we still have a lot of the room to go to. Thank you.
Apologize for having my back with you guys. Definitely not my better side. 1.2, recommended wilderness. Everyone thought that that was the status quo, was okay as is, and a few people thought that it should be increased and expanded in the old MA11, particularly the upper part around the peak. 2.2, backcountry. We had some trouble with how this was written up and felt that it could be, the language in that description was much too vague, and so there should be more specificity. Specifically specify where the motorized scooter would be, specify if salvage occurs that no roads could be built. The overall description is too broad, and they need to know more what could happen on the ground. Sections 8 and 10 that have the 2.2 designation should change to 3.3, and change or delete the word generalized to not suitable. Under research natural areas 3.2, again, the words generally were kind of bugging us, and so we wanted it more specific, and that specific activities must be done in respect to research for specified research hypothesis testing. and that 3.2 should remain as is due to the high scientific value, and to consider expanding the 3.2 area into where the hybridized large and soils exist, and to specify the research objective to that. 3.3, I mentioned that, should be applied to sections 8 and 10. We thought that one point on the area that Carlton Ridge Road should be open to all, not just the permittee if it was opened at all. 4.1 was, we didn't get much resolution on this. In the 4.1 and the 5.1 area, we felt that the Mormon Creek and area north of Carlton Ridge should have greater recreation emphasis throughout that. So most of the group thought that 4.1 should remain as low to moderate. Some thought it could be increased. And under 5.1, some thought that it should remain in high intensity, and most of our group thought it should be put back into at least the 4.1. And that's as far as we got.
You know, I'd like to see a nod of heads, but I think what we're starting to hear a lot of similarities. I think we'll do maybe a couple more tables, try to get it quick, and then if a table thinks they've got something different to add, how about, you know, please facilitator, feel free to raise your hand. And or if we want to just keep going through every single table, that's fine too. So every table. Okay. So please make them as quickly as possible, because as you can see, we're about a third of the way through, and just the agreements I think will help. Okay. Thank you.
The whole evening anyway.
Okay, I'll try to be quick. On 1.2 recommended wilderness, 6 here, we have 7 in our group, by the way. So I'm going to read in terms of numbers. 6 were in firm agreement to the proposal, 1 needed more information, and 1 of the 6 wants to expand the designation.
And that's 1.1.
2, that's 1 point? Yeah. 2.2, backcountry areas. 4 were in very firm agreement with the proposal, 2 abstained. 1 wants to divide some of this area into 6.1 around the ski lifts and Ren's proposal. 3.2 research, all said yes, but 1 was on hold. 3.3 general forest mixed uses, all said yes, but 4 of the yes said. 4.1 tip of Bitterroot should be 3.3. 4.1 general forest mixed use, all were in agreement with 4.1 as is. But a few said the roadless tip should go to 3.3, and 1 wanted to see it all go to 4.1. 5.1 general forest, everybody wanted 3.3. We had agreement for that by 6. 1 wanted to keep it 5.1. It was important for some that the areas next to Carlton Ridge go 2.2. On 5.2, everybody was in agreement with as is, with a big caveat, though, that we've heard before, Forest Service to acquire Plum Creek lands. And 6.1, no to 6.1 in this area from everybody but 1 who wanted a 6.1 proposal.
Thank you, Karen. Dave?
Okay. The 1.2, there were 8 people at the table. 6 were interested in seeing that expanded somewhat to connect in with the research natural area, and 2 of them liked it where it was. The rest of that 2.2 backcountry area was accepted as it's currently drawn. Probably the most significant thing with this group is the desire to see the research natural area expanded and to go back to Steve Arno's original proposed designation and use those boundaries that are identifiable on the ground to include that. The 3.3 was accepted as it was, recognizing that the head end of McLean Creek has some real unstable geologic conditions, and any development on those grounds should be avoided. The 4.1 was okay as is for all but 1 person who wanted to have a portion. Oh, I need to back up. The group agreed that all of the 5.1 should be switched to 4.1, and then given that,
One person felt that a sliver should be buffered up against the RNA. There was no recommendation on 6.1 designation, and we ran out of time on 5.2.
Thank you, David. Don?
Okay, half of our table wanted to go with the Friends of Lolo Peak as proposed, with minor changes in some of the MAs to follow topographic boundaries instead of section lines. 1.2, there was an agreement in the amount that we should have at least as much as is in the preferred option or greater, various degrees of greater. 2.2, most of the people wanted more 2.2, but we did have one person who wanted the 2.2 changed to 4.1, except where it's existing or where there's an IRA, inventory wilderness area in place. 3.2, except that everybody agreed that we should have what's in the preferred option or expanded to what Steve Arnold had proposed earlier. 3.3, okay, except as proposed in the preferred option. 5.1 and 6.1, it was unanimous at the table, they don't want any. And 5.2, the consensus is that they like 5.2 boundary, in part of it to follow Mormon Ridge to make a logical boundary.
Thank you, Don. Cindy?
1.2, the majority of the group agreed that they wanted to expand wilderness into 2.2 because of the very vague nature of the definition of backcountry area. So 2.2 they could live with if that definition was tightened up related to use. 3.2, majority wanted to expand the RNA to the west. 3.3, they thought it was an appropriate designation, but they wanted to make sure the overall objective was for maintaining visual quality in the Bitterroot Valley. 4.1, they agreed with the designation, but wanted to make sure it incorporated all the 5.1 areas. So 5.1 would go away and it would all become 4.1. 5.2, they agreed with the recommendation, but they thought there should be a strong caveat from the Forest Service that private landowners must be more proactive in making their own lands resistant to wildfires, destroying their homes. And 6.1, majority of the group thought we had Blue Mountain and the Lolo cross-country ski trails, and that's plenty, and we don't need it in this area.
Thanks, Cindy. Sherry?
Well, I was afraid I was going to get a group that was completely in consensus, and we didn't. And so I don't have a lot of agreements. The current 1.2 is appropriate, I'll agree that, except there were differences on what could be added to that. Everyone agreed that the best alpine larch is in the upper elevations of the current RNA and in the Friends of the Lolo Peak proposed addition. And there was some discussion about, you know, if you could change the current RNA, then you might want to change it to incorporate that. The other area of agreement was that in the area that is currently 4.1 in section 6, the northwest corner of the map next to the 2.1 scenic river, that ought to be changed to 3.3.
Great, thank you, Sherry. Elizabeth?
Hi, well, this is going to be real quick because we never got off 6.1. I did everything short of standing on my head. But that's okay, and we had a lot of discussions, mostly philosophical discussions about 6.1, and in general, this will take about 30 seconds, but some folks thought that there should be, that more or most of the area should be 6.1 for development. And consider that in scope to 6.1 and high-end development across Montana. That maybe looking at to 6.1 at such a small scale was too small of a scale. And mostly considering the economics and to balance other non-developed or low development areas across Montana, considering such a small 6.1 area. Some folks thought that we have enough, let me see if I can get the proper words here. We are rapidly losing intact areas and feels that the area should be left the same. It felt pretty strongly that the area should be left pretty much the same as it is today. And then there was quite a discussion about how some people would not necessarily be opposed to 6.1 if it was a ski area that was really wigging them out. If we get to talking about the 6.1, the Blue Mountain area, or 6.1, that shows up for Patty Canyon, they're okay with that kind of high-end recreation development, talking about trails and access through an area. But when we start talking about ski area development, that gets really uncomfortable for them. And so that was some of the discussion there. And then another interesting comment, if we're looking at it from an economic standpoint, maybe some sort of high-end development in some other community that could benefit more from it. We're thinking that maybe Missoula is doing quite well for itself, and maybe there's some other community across the state like that that could use more.
Let's move Lolo Peak to Lordstown.
All right. Joe, you?
Generally, our group supported the Friends of Lolo Peak proposal, with a couple of exceptions. In the southeast corner, on the Bitterroot side, our group supported 6.1 from a line on the ridge between Mormon Creek and basically between Mormon Creek and the Bitterroot Valley, a ridge. The ridge line is a divider running along the east side of RNA. So we supported that for 6.1. And also it's including strong support for expansion of the research natural area. Since that section 20 or 33, whatever it is, to the west was included in the original proposal for the RNA. There's a need, though, for a buffer between 6.1 and the RNA on that east side of the current RNA. We supported getting rid of the 5.1 high-intensity development proposal. But generally, we supported the Friends of Lolo Peak and all except for adding 6.1 in. And also considering the question was whether or not 4.1 would allow for Nordic trail development.
Thank you. I had a group of 9 very interested people, and the group in general, I would say, actually supported the Friends of Lolo Peak also, but we really didn't call it that. We were pretty specific about each one. 1.2, the group actually was happy with the existing 1.2, but wanted to change all of 2.2 to 1.2 at one point. And as we discussed it, they really focused more on the parts adjacent to Lolo Peak itself could be 1.2. 3.2 supported the continuance of the research natural area, but want to add what the former scientists had earlier recommended, those additional acres, but to base that on science, what acres are added. 3.3, just want to record a concern for soils in the McLean Creek drainage, and most of the group wanted actually to create a mile buffer of 2.2 along the wilderness boundary, and what was left over could be 3.3. Another concern with the 3.3 is the winter range for elk and deer and the potential conflict with winter trails, whether that be Nordic or downhill in winter range, especially with the development going on in the valley. 4.1, they actually, one individual wanted to change 4.1 to 2.2, but most of the group was leaving 4.1 as it is, but they would take all of 5.1 and change that to 4.1. So that's covers 5.1. On 5.2, the group was all right with that designation, but wanted to add protection of wildlife corridors as a consideration there. And they agreed with allowing motorized use on designated trails only. And the group unanimously opposed 6.1 designation in this area.
Thank you.
I had a group, they all left, so they have to trust that I'm going to report out accurately. In 1.2 recommended wilderness, everybody agreed with the forest preferred alternative. We came close to agreement that the preferred alternative should include more of the view shed. In 2.2, 4 people agreed with the forest preferred option. 4 agreed with the preferred alternative, but they would carve out some of the southeast corner for 6.1 consideration. In the research natural area, 4 agreed with the RNA as it exists, and 4 thought that it should be expanded to include some or all of section 23. 3.3, everybody was okay with as described on the preferred option. In 4.1, there were differences of opinion on how the north portion and the south portion should be managed. On the north portion, everybody agreed that 4.1 should be 5.2, and then in the south portion, 1 person believed that the south portion of 4.1 should be 3.3, 2 thought it was just fine as it is, and 4 thought some of the south portion should be 6.1. And then in 5.1, everybody was okay, except some thought that it should be lower intensity management. And in 6.1, 5.2 everybody was in agreement with, and then 6.1, 4 agreed that some of the 2.2 should be, and 4.1 should be 6.1, and I have all this mapped.
Thank you. I think, Jordan, well, we're getting near the end. I think we have 3 left.
Well, we had 3 areas of complete agreement. One was 1.2 recommended wilderness. The whole table felt that was what we should have. The other area of complete agreement was on 5.2 residential and forest intermix. The other complete agreement was that we were all confused for intermittently throughout the entire evening. Going back to 2.2, we had general agreement on 2.2. Some felt that we should have more wilderness around Lolo Peak, and we had 1 dissenting vote that felt the area should be 6.1. On 3.2, we had close to agreement. Everybody felt yes, 3.2 is appropriate, with 1 dissenting vote in favor of 6.1. 3.3, majority felt this should be a 2.2. Let's see, am I correct here? And 1 felt that the lower part of this area should be retained as 3.3, and almost everybody agreed that the upper part should be 2.2. On 4.1, we had general agreement that 4.1 was the correct, what we should have there. Everybody felt that it should be a general forest management area ranging somewhere from 3.3 to 4.1. On 5.1, we did not agree that this was the correct designation for this, and it should be somewhere between, we had a range of 2.2, 4.1, 3.3, and 1 felt it should be 6. And I think that covers them all.
Thank you. Just a little bit more. Yep.
All right, it must be something about this side of the room that not as many agreements for one reason or another. Had a real good group, excellent discussions, and they felt kind of across a range of feelings on this. I think in general, if I had to make a note, nobody was increasing or interested in increased development in this area, but you couldn't get the ski area except for the ski area discussion. So that kind of dominated. After about an hour, I think everybody came to the realization we weren't going to be drawing any lines on the map tonight. So basically, there was one area of agreement was a general concern for the soils in the area. There's known these mica schists and some landslide potentials. Other than that, What they agreed was to make some individual statements that, based on their discussions, and pretty open. And they ranged from, like to see the area open for further consideration for ski areas, but not close the possibility right now. Want to see more details about those kind of considerations, but otherwise not looking for further development. Sorry, that's much lower. Another would like to see all the management areas basically similar to what's in here, but in the threes and below, less development than what's proposed by the forest right now, and expand the RNA towards the original proposal area. Another one, strong proponent of protecting the remainless roadless area, already well developed around the town, around Missoula. Would like to expand the RNA and recommended wilderness that isn't in the RNA already. And another one, while there's still concerns for soils and other technical questions, don't want to see the area move into logging, but see a ski area as a low impact use of an area and a positive economic footprint for the area. There were 6. So support the changes proposed by Friends of the Lolo Peak. Pretty straightforward. And one last one. Struggle between, there's a lot of struggle in here, between affording the opportunity to develop or consider more in more detail something like a ski proposal, and proposing something that would tend to close that door now. Doesn't think should dramatically change the look of the area or the peak under any consideration.
Thank you, Pete. And last but not least, and then we've got some, we opened with the 2 rangers and we will close with the 2 rangers unless anybody from the team has anything additional to add. So, Doug.
Thanks, Sharon. This group agreed with the concept and is drawn with 5.2, and they agreed to disagree. 4 wanted 6.1, and 3 wanted to leave it as natural as possible.
You're brief, I love it. All right. So Dan, are you up next?
So there was a couple of questions about what happens next. And so what we will do is we will gather up the comments that the facilitators have reported, hand them over to Lee's team and his folks, and they will incorporate those comments with all the other comments that we've been receiving from public and community meetings. And then the 2 forest leadership teams and the 2 forest supervisors will consider those comments in September when we make the changes to the preferred option. That's kind of the process from here. And with that in mind, I just want to let you know that if you want to stay involved in the forest plan revision process, in the Bitterroot in particular, the Stevensville Community Group is meeting on Monday, July 25th at 7 o'clock in the Stevensville Ranger Station. And then in Hamilton, the group is meeting on Monday, August 1st, and in Darby on Tuesday, August 2nd. And so for the Hamilton or Darby meetings, contact those offices if you're interested in attending to get the specifics and to confirm those dates. And then lastly, I want to thank everybody for coming. This was, to me, a really productive discussion. Thank you for following the ground rules. I mean, everybody was engaged. In fact, there was a group here in the middle that I don't think sat down for the first hour. They were on their knees looking at that map, and that was true, I think, all around the room. So I thank you all for hanging with us for 2.5 hours to work on this really important issue.
Thanks, Dan. Similarly, for the Missoula Ranger District, we've got a couple more meetings every other Thursday night until September 1st. And what we've done is divided up our meetings as per a geographic area. So 2 weeks ago, we focused on Rock Creek. Tonight was Lolo Peak. In 2 more weeks from now, August 4th, we'll focus on the greater Missoula area, which is the Rattlesnake, Grant Creek, Hattie Canyon, Blue Mountain kind of, or not Blue Mountain, well, yeah, I guess it is a little bit of Blue Mountain, but so that kind of area around Missoula. And then 2 weeks after that, we'll take on the whole Lolo Creek area. So more of the area up toward Lolo Pass. And then I think that takes us to almost the September 1st date when we'll close out our meetings. And again, echoing Dan's comments, I want to give you all a huge thank you. This information that we've gathered from you tonight is priceless.
it is really critical for us to get the kind of input we can get from folks who care so much about the public land around Missoula. Thank you so much. It was a courageous effort on all of your parts. I think that you were terribly responsive to each other. Do I have my zipper down or something? Oh, okay. Sorry. I hate that. She said this information, all this stuff that you all talked about this evening will be posted on the website in the next couple days, right?
Well, in the next few days.
In the next few days. Cute, not couple. Ma'am, have you got a process question? Because we are about to close out. We are not in a place to have discussions, so.
Well, I've heard people mentioning 5.1 and I don't see it anywhere on the map. So I think that some people misunderstood.
Oh, 5.1 is one of the management areas that is in the legend. It's the high use, high intensity management. And so they may have thought that perhaps it should go to that. It's not already on the map.
They saw it on the map where the mistake was on the map.
Okay.
The mistaken part. And they didn't understand it was a mistake.
Okay. If it's a mistake, it's an internal thing. Thank you. Okay, now, anybody, if you have any further comments that you'd like to submit, you can still do that. Please don't hesitate to send us some comments. Thank you again for coming, and we will hopefully be in contact with you, okay? Don?